So to start with, today we shall discuss about the counter. So basically, counter means that we need to. It has got various applications. Uh, Primarily, it counts the number of pulses that is applied to the system. Okay, uh, so let us begin with the basics. A single flip-flop has got two states. Okay, so an array of n flip-flops has got 2 to the power n states. So a single flip-flop means set and reset state. Okay, set or clear. Now a state of by a state of the array, what we mean? We mean a particular combination of states of individual flip-flops. So if you have got a counter built up with 4 flip-flops connected in cascade, so in all they can give rise to 2 to the power 4 or 16 number of states. Okay, but it will depend on the way you are designing the counter. So that is the maximum number of states available out of n flip-flops. Okay, now you can use some or all of them. Okay, so the design of a counter is of primary importance. Now, even you can configure a shift register in the form of a counter that we shall see later. And counter has got many important roles in the domain of computer architecture also. So when a counter is passing to a particular state, some actions need to be taken, or some status signals need to be checked. Okay, some control signals need to be activated, and that's all. So counter plays a very important role. So if starting from some initial state, the counter returns to that initial state after k cycles of the input or clock waveform. The counter is called modulo k or base k. In short, we shall talk about a mod k counter. So essentially it means that modulo k, or the modulus or the base of the counter is k. That means starting from any particular initial state. Okay, the counter will pass through a prescribed sequence of states, designed sequence of states, before coming back to the same state. Okay, so that means a cycle will contain the k states. You can draw the state transition diagram, and there can be a cycle consisting of a number of states. Okay, so that we start with the initial state. After passing through a number of states, say k states, it gets back to the same state. There is a cycle. Okay, so any counter must have a cycle. Okay, now here we show a simple construction of 4 JK flip-flops connected in toggle mode. As you can see that with J and K both are connected to logic 1, and clock is connected to the leftmost flip-flop, the clock input of the leftmost flip-flop, and the symbol tells us that each of the flip-flop is a negative edge triggered flip-flop. The presence of triangle states that it is a edge triggered flip-flop, whereas the presence of circle states that it is negative edge triggered flip-flop. Okay, and note that from the output of the leftmost flip-flop, it is connected to the clock input of the immediately right neighbor, FF1, and again from FF1, the Q output of which is connected to the clock input of its immediate right neighbor, that is FF2, and finally from Q2, the output of FF2, the information goes to the clock input of the FF3. So all these 4 flip-flops are connected and build up a counter, but it is a counter which is asynchronous, okay, or ripple counter. Why? The name we shall learn. Okay, to see that this is a system-wide clock. So this clock signal which we have shown here, we are showing, you see that we are naming the triggering transition number. What do you mean by that? Triggering transition means the particular active edge which triggers a particular flip-flop. That means it induces some transition in the flip-flop. Okay, transition means the state can change. So from set state it can pass to reset state. That means the Q0 will become, if earlier prior to the active edge it was say in 0 state, logic state, now it may become 1, or it can even remain the same. Okay, so prior to the transition, if we call the timing as t, then just after the transition, we shall call the time instant as t plus 1. Okay, right? So here, for example, let me show. You see that this is the active age, the 1 to 0 or the falling transition in the clock. As soon as it happens, Q0, which stands for the flip-flop state, FF0 its state, it was at logic 0 condition prior to this falling age. Now it has become 1. Okay. So if you fall back to the uh, state table or the characteristic table of the Jacob flip-flop, you can well remember that with both the excitation inputs, namely J and K, connected to 1, it will operate in the toggle mode. That means whatever state it is prior to the active age, it will complement, I mean, the state following the active age will be the complement of that which existed prior to the active age. Clear? So from 0 it has gone to 1. Now this Q0 output is fed to the clock input of FF1. So here also, when the falling age occurs, this 1 to 0 transition, the trailing age, okay, so it will induce a transition in Q1. So assume that prior to this triggering transition, all the 4 flip-flops are in clear state. That you have to keep in mind. That means the initial state must be defined. Okay, you can easily make it happen. You know how? You remember that there are asynchronous inputs, then the reset and preset. Okay, or set and clear, asynchronous set and asynchronous clear inputs. So we can manipulate that. Okay, that means we can have a circuit which will force the system to pass over to the asynchronous, the all zero state, all clear state, right? So that means if we can force, actually in your laboratory also you have done. Okay, so how you are manipulating the master reset or the clear input, okay, of 74273. Okay, even for 7490 also, I believe we have done when you are working with the RAM, the generic 1K RAM. There, if you remember what you did, there are two master reset inputs in 7490 also. So you touched it momentarily to ground, or maybe logic 1. So that has sent the 7490 or 7493, the modulo 16 or modulo 10 counter to all clear state. That means all of the 4 flip-flops are in clear state. Okay, so you can by what you call manual mechanism, you can send a particular circuit to all clear, or you can even automatically make it happen. As soon as you switch on the circuit, the this particular configuration of the counter will certainly start with initial state of all zero. That you can easily make it happen. Okay, just you have to keep a small RC circuit. Okay, so that in the discharge condition, RC circuit, you all know that the capacitor charge is assumed to be initially discharged. So if you connect the joining the what you call the junction of the resistance and capacitance to the asynchronous clear input of all the flip-flops. Here we are not showing, but any commercially available flip-flops, any commercially available counters will definitely have the provision for setting up the initial state. Okay, so all zero state can be initially attained. Not only all zero, any state, any of the 16 possible states can be attained by manipulating the clear input and the asynchronous set and asynchronous clearing. Assume that here we have done likewise. That means the normal outputs of 4 flip-flops FF0 to FF3, suppose they have been forced to go to logic 0 when the circuit is switched on, and also clock starts arriving at the input. Okay, from any external source. Let us say a clock generator is there. The moment the circuit starts, clock starts and affect the state of the counter. So initial state was all zero. We can read the state in this manner. You see, always when you're drawing the configuration of a counter, remember that the leftmost flip-flop will be the frequency of the waveform produced at the output of the leftmost flip-flop would be the highest of all of the flip-flops, and that available at the normal output of the rightmost flip-flop will happen to be the frequency of the lowest, will happen to be a periodic waveform of the lowest frequency. So if we write out the state of the counter by noting the state of the rightmost flip-flop first, followed by its immediate left neighbor, and so on until you reach the leftmost flip-flop, okay, say Q3, Q2, Q1, Q0 in this particular instance, then we can read the state of the counter. So here the initial state is 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay. Now, following the active age, first active age, that means the 1 to 0 transition, you can read the state of the counter at any point but the active age. Okay. That is advisable because 1 to 0 transition of the clock, when it happens, okay, at this point it is very difficult to read the state of the counter. So basically what we can do, we read the state of the counter in the 0 to 1 transition, okay, or any time when the clock is at logic 1 state, okay, because as it is a age triggered, as all the flip-flops are age triggered, so the flip-flop will never change state when the clock remains at logic 1 or there is a active age, there is a rising age. Okay, so you can read the state of the counter at rising age when you know for sure that all the flip-flops are triggered by the falling ages. Okay, so you can read the state of the counter. Here you see I have numbered the triggering transition by numbers. So this one means this is the first active age, then the second active age. So prior to the second active age, when you are getting a 0 to 1 transition or a rising age, if you read the state of the counter by reading the state of the flip-flop FF3 first, followed by reading the state of the counter FF2, then FF1, then FF0. So what we get, it is 0, 0, 0, 1. That means only the first, the leftmost flip-flop is in set state, is in high state. The remaining 3 are in clear state. Okay, so that's why we can read it as 0, 0, 0, 1. Clear? After that, what happens? You see that prior to the after the second active age, what happens? Q0 was at logic 1 prior to the second active age. So as all the flip-flops are in toggle mode, so whichever flip-flops get 1 to 0 transition at their clock input will undergo a transition. So FF0 will do that because always it is getting the clock. Okay, so from 1 it will pass to 0. At the same time, you see FF1, now it will receive a 1 to 0 transition at its clock input. Okay, because J and K are 1 and you get FF1 gets a 1 to 0 transition at the time instant marked as 2. So that is the triggering transition number. So after the active falling age, the FF1 will pass from reset state to set state, from clear state to set state. Okay. And likewise, if you see now you proceed to the triggering transition number 3. Here you see FF0 will definitely have a transition at each of the active age. Okay, it will have a clock wave of the highest frequency. Okay, and that also, if you notice carefully, the frequency of waveform obtained at Q0 is half of the frequency of the clock waveform itself. Okay, right? So that means you can say that as if FF0 divides the frequency of the clock by a factor of 2. Okay. Similarly, you see Q1, FF1 will respond to the clock input applied at its particular input, and that too it is coming from the its immediate left neighbor. That means from Q0 the clock input is coming. So whenever if Q0 has a 1 to 0 transition, FF1 will have a transition, and you can easily note that the output signal which is obtained at the normal output of FF1 happens to be the frequency of that particular output Q1 is nothing but 1/2 of that of FF0 output. Also at the same point of time, the frequency of the signal obtained at Q1 or the normal output of FF1, the frequency is 1. Likewise, you can find out for yourself that at the normal output of FF2, the signal obtained has a frequency 1/8 that of the clock with the primary clock frequency. Okay, and finally FF3, the rightmost flip-flop, you will see that its frequency that is obtained is, what is that? It is, if you count it from here, so it will be actually half if you can count. Okay, so its cycle will be the clock frequency will be 1/16 of that of the clock, right? And state of the counter, you can see we are trying to find out the modulus or base of the counter. Let us start with a particular state. So we can read the state of the counter at each rising edge. So I have noted down, I have written, you can easily find that it starts with all 0. It will reach all 0 after how many clock beat, after how many clock steps, how many clock cycles elapse of the primary clock waveform. You can easily find that this is the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, seventh one, eighth one, ninth one, 10th one, 11th one, 12th one, 13th one, 14th one, 15th one, 16th. So after 16 clock cycles pass, if you start from this state, this active edge, while you encounter this, this is not an active edge, I'm sorry, this is a 0 to 1 transition of the primary clock. You can see that this all 0 will return after the passing of 16 clock cycles. So from this point, you can count up to this point, you will get 16 number of clock cycles. All of you can verify it. Okay, and you can easily draw the waveform diagram of this modulo 16 counter. Remember that whenever we are designing any counter, okay, it is of primary importance not only to design the counter, that means designing of the counter means you decide that which flip-flops you are going to use, namely mostly for synchronous counter as well as asynchronous counter, okay, we'll make use of JK flip-flops, okay, because JK flip-flops give us the prospect, the scope of realizing any particular circuit with the maximum economy, okay, because of the presence of so many don't cares in its excitation table that we mentioned in the earlier class also. Okay, we'll design in this particular class also for a non-binary counter. Okay. So you see that binary counter means what? When the modulus or base is a power of 2. So this is an example of a binary counter. Okay, so it is modulus is 16. 16 is a power of 2, fourth power of 2. We can also generate a modulo 8 counter by putting 3 number of JK flip-flops in proper cascade and making the proper interconnections. Okay, right? So clear? So I believe that this waveform should be clear to all of you, is it not? And remember that whenever you are asked to solve a problem on counter, not only you should design the counter, but you should draw the waveform. And whenever you are drawing the waveform, remember, dear friends, that you must draw the reference clock. Unless you draw the clock waveform, based on that only, you are going to draw the outputs available at all the flip-flops. Here, 4 flip-flops, FF0, FF1, FF2, FF3. Unless you draw the clock reference waveform, okay, drawing of the succeeding of the successive vertical flip-flop outputs does not hold much meaning, because what is the frequency available at individual flip-flops, that will depend on the clock waveform. Okay, so first draw the clock waveform, and below that, one by one, you draw the flip-flop output waveform. Is it clear to all of you? Okay, so this is the clock, this is the overall waveform of a modulo 16 asynchronous or ripple counter. Clear? Is the generation of the clock of the overall waveform clear to all of you? Yes or no? So I've drawn the clock waveform. Below that, the output available at FF0. Below that, the output available at FF1, FF2, FF3. Is it clear to all of you, dear friends? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. This is right. Okay. So yes, now, sir. Thank you. So let me now quickly tell you, say, what are the, based on this modulo 16 counter, which can straightforwardly obtain several questions we need to answer now. One by one, we are answering that. Say, first of all, the JK flip-flops are connected in toggling mode with J equal to K equal to 1. And input signal, why it is a counter? Because it is counting the counting the number of cycles, and at any point of time, in fact, the binary equivalent of the states, decimal equivalent of the states will tell me how many cycles have elapsed starting from all zero. Okay, so if you get 1 here, I know that one cycle has elapsed. If you get 2 here, I know that from the point we have started counting as all zero, 2 has elapsed. So up to this point, 2 number of cycles have elapsed. So that's why it is called a counter. It is counting the number of pulses available from the primary clock. Okay, so input signal whose cycles are to be counted is applied to the clock input of the leftmost flip-flop here, FF0. Assume the flip-flops to toggle on the negative gate transition of the waveform at the clock input. Okay, and count also we can reach the considering the count to be k equal to 0 when all of them are all 0. So what you do, start from the MSB. So if you notice that the counting word, okay, the state of the counter you read as a binary word, then most significant bit position will be occupied by the state of the rightmost flip-flop. And the LSB stand for the immediately the leftmost flip-flop to which the primary clock is attached. This is for asynchronous counter. Okay. So here we read that at any point of time k I can read by this is a positional binary number. Okay, so Q3 has got a weightage of 2 to the power 3. This has got 2 to the power 2, this has got 2 to the 1, and this is 2 to 0. So I can read the state of the counter at any point of time. You can find the number of pulses that have elapsed so far. Okay, so if here for example 1001, I know that from the this 0 to 1 transition where we have read the counting counter state as all 0, if we have come thus far, that so far 9 clock cycles have elapsed. Okay, so we can now count the number of clock cycles that have elapsed so far. But note that the counting instant should be uniform. So here uniformity means what? 0 to 1 transition, whenever it occurs, at that point of time we are reading the state of the counter. Okay. Next question is what? Why do we call it an asynchronous counter and why do you call it a ripple counter? So this name ripple. So asynchronous means the clock is applied only to one, the primary clock is applied only to the clock input of the leftmost flip-flop, but to no other flip-flops. As you can see, the other flip-flops get their clock signal from their immediate left neighbor. So it is not a synchronous system. Synchronous means that all the flip-flops should be the clock signals of all the flip-flops should be driven by the same clock signal. That means the transition, if at all, will occur at the outputs of all the flip-flops at same point of time in synchronism with some important event in the primary clock signal. Here, for example, if their negative is triggered, and if we would have connected this to the clock input of all the flip-flops from this point, okay, cut off this connection and connect this clock signal to the clock inputs of all the flip-flops, then the system, then the counter would have been called a synchronous counter. But at the present instant, it is an asynchronous counter. And why it is a ripple counter? That we now answer. So why is the counter called a ripple counter? Ripple means what? You have seen a pond, all of you have seen lakes and ponds. So if you throw a stone, okay, from that point, the stone is dropped. Okay, it hits the pond at a particular point. After that, several wavefronts are produced. So that as if the wave is generated and it progresses towards the one by one outward. Here also you see what happens. Suppose one counter as a counter with n flip-flops. Okay, here 4, and all 4 flip-flops are in the set state, so that Q0 equal to Q1 equal to on. So let me show it here. If you read this state, okay, where I put the cursor, so you read the state as all of the flip-flops are in set state. Clear? 1 1 1 1. Now, when this active edge occurs, that means here I am putting number 16. What in sequence different events will take place. First, you see, as the clock directly hits the FF0, so its output will first go from 1 to 0. Although I have drawn it simultaneously on pen and paper, but if you actually on pen and on the paper when I have drawn it, using sketch pens, multiple color sketch pen. I have just shown it as taking place synchronously, but in actuality it is not so. Okay, in actuality this trailing, this 1 to 0 transition which is obtained at FF0, FF1, FF2, FF3 are available but at different instance, not at the same instant. That should be underlined. Okay, this is an asynchronous counter. Okay, so that means in sequence what are the events taking place as the 1 to 0 transition happens at this point. First FF0 will change state from logic 1 to logic 0. Now this transition is connected to the clock input of the immediate right neighbor, that means FF1. So its output Q1 will go from logic 1 to logic 0. After some time, depending on the propagation delay of the flip-flops, okay, all the flip-flops have got same propagation delay, so 20 nanoseconds. Okay, so if that this takes place at t equal to 0, Q0 will pass to 0 1 to 0 state at t equal to 20. Then it will appear at the clock input of FF1. So FF1, the 1 to 0 transition will take place at t equal to 20 plus 20, that is 40. Next, FF2 will have this 1 to 0 transition at t equal to 60, 20 plus 20 plus 20. And finally, FF3 will have the transition, okay, latest in the sequence, that we will have t equal to 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20, 80 nanoseconds. Okay, so depending on the propagation delay of the flip-flops and on what does the propagation delay depend, that you can easily tell me that, assume that we have studied earlier that if you have a master slave JK flip-flop, the signal starts from the very leftmost end, it travels through a number of NAND gates. Okay, so thereby you can add up the propagation delays of the NAND gates. Okay, finally from when at what point the signal enters. Okay, so clock equal to say active age, and then it passes over number of NAND gates. Okay, still Q and Q bar attain the stable state. So up to that instant you have to get the propagation delay. So propagation delay can be will depend on the propagation delay of the individual individual gates. Okay, right? So see why we call it a ripple counter, because all of the flip-flops are at set state. Now first Q0 falls from 1 to 0 and it triggers a transition in FF1. So it also falls from 1 to 0. So as if this transition is triggered from this end to this end, from the Q0 point to the Q3 point. That means as if a disturbance has traveled from this end to total. So the actually transition in the clock has triggered this, that has triggered this Q1. Q1 transition has triggered Q2 and Q2 has triggered the transition in Q3 in strict sequence. Okay, so that means the disturbance, that means the transition as if it has been transferred from leftmost flip-flop through the intermediate flip-flops right to the rightmost flip-flop. Okay, that's why it is called a ripple counter. That means the transition has rippled, or the input clocking transition, namely 1 to 0 transition, has rippled through the counter from the output Q0 of the FF0, the leftmost flip-flop, to output Qn minus 1 of the rightmost flip-flop. Fine. So on completion of the rippling, the counter will be at all clear state. Okay, that means the flip-flop, see all the flip-flops have changed the states. Actually, so this will put a strain on the frequency to which you can subject the circuit. That means what can be the maximum frequency of this clock, and still the circuit will go through all the states. So this particular transition, you can say this gives us the worst case propagation delay. Okay, see here you can see that when the counter goes from all 0 to all 001, sorry 0001, here only how much delay is encountered? Only 20 nanoseconds, right? But here you have to encounter a delay of 80 nanoseconds, right? So requirement is maximum here. That means the interval, the difference between the two successive clocking active edges will depend on, particularly from this see this trailing edge. So this how far, what is the minimum time period, okay, sorry, what is the minimum time period of the clock that is determined by the delay, propagation delay of the flip-flops. Clear? We'll discuss that also. So from here to here, what should be the minimum time? That will depend on the propagation delay of the individual flip-flops. Let me discuss that also. Okay, so I believe it is clear why it is called a ripple counter. Okay, so it is called a ripple counter because if you argue in this fashion, start with the all set state, it will pass to all clear state. So the input clocking transition as it ripples throughout the counter, starting from the leftmost end, it reaches the rightmost end after some time. And why it is called asynchronous counter, that also we have answered, because there is no clocking signal applied in common to each flip-flop to induce transitions in each flip-flop simultaneously. Okay, that should be remembered. And what is the upper limit? Now there is the important question. The upper limit to the allowable frequency of the input waveform. That means you can subject a circuit to all possible frequency of clock, but not all the frequencies will give you all the states. So we'll take up that particular clock frequency which gives us the all possible states. Because unless we can do that, the counter will become useless, because the counter having designed the counter and subjecting it to clock frequencies of various frequencies, the clock signals of various frequencies, we find out what is the maximum allowable frequency. Okay, right? So maximum allowable frequency means it will translate to the minimum time period. Okay. So to understand that, again we take up that case which gives us the worst case propagation delay. That means all the flip-flops should change state. Clear? Suppose with n equal to 4, we are dealing with 1 equal to 4. We are at the count state where all of them are at 1. Let TPD, the propagation time of each flip-flop, be 50 nanoseconds. Again, it is a nominal value. Some of them can be 49, some of them can be 51, because all the in practice, in actuality, in nature, all the gates, although they are produced in the same batch, due to some process variations or otherwise, the flip-flop delay can vary. Not exactly 50, but this is a typical nominal value. So if you take it to be 50 nanosecond, then as you have seen that first FF0 will change state, then FF1, then FF2, then FF3. So in sequence, not at the same point of time. Then what do you do? 50 plus 50 plus 50 plus 50, 200 nanoseconds should elapse. Okay. So at the next input clocking transition, a ripple starts and does not end before 4 into 50, that is 20 nanoseconds. Okay, so if the interval between the succeeding clock transition is less than 20 nanoseconds, then we'll not get all the states. For example, maybe all the 0 state will not get, it will be skipped, and we may reach say 0001. Okay, depending on the frequency. Okay, if you have to generate all possible states, then the minimum difference between say from here, from this point to this point, that means this active age to this active age, the difference, the time period, the minimum time period must exceed, must be equal to or exceed the sum of the propagation delays of the individual flip-flops. So here, for example, if we assume that there are 50 nanoseconds, so the minimum time period should be greater than or equal to 200 nanoseconds. For safety, we keep it to be somewhat higher than 200 nanoseconds. Okay, so that will give me the reciprocal of that time period will give me the maximum frequency. Minimum time period will translate to maximum frequency. So we get this as the if max should be less than or equal to 1 by n TPD. Here actually n stands for 4. Okay, so is it clear? The upper limit of the allowable frequency of the input waveform for this ripple counter, is it clear to all of you, dear friends? I believe it is clear, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you.
But the
So,
waveform that you have drawn in the clock left side here, it's not like
yes, yes.
symmetric, like the duty cycle is not super. That is that in the
Yeah.
lower slide, I think lower left.
Lower left.
In the next slide, I think it was on page
Okay,
number.
okay. Okay, yeah. So once again, yeah, Arinder, So what do you point out?
I said
Clock.
that this is not 50-50, right? The time period that you have drawn on the left side here, this is like it is off for longer than it is for on. So what is up with that?
Okay, that means the minimum difference between this say active age and this active age, this should be at least be equal to n times the propagation delay. Assume that the nominal propagation delay through individual flip-flop is 50 and we have got 4 flip-flops in cascade because we are considering modulo 16 counter built up by putting 4 flip-flops in cascade. So the minimum time period that should elapse between this falling edge and this falling edge of the primary clock should be 4 times the propagation delay, okay, or n times the propagation delay in general. Clear? So that means if you are considering as a modulo 64, that means 2 to the power, or say modulo 64 means 6 flip-flops in tandem. So that means then depending on the number of flip-flops that are connected in cascade. So a 6-bit counter or a modulo 64 counter, the maximum count that is available, for that this will vary. This T should be greater than or equal to 6 times 50 or 300 nanosecond. Okay, so for that the frequency will be even less. Okay, means frequency is inversely proportional to the n, right? Number of flip-flops in cascade. Clear? And also the input waveform need not be periodic. That should be clearly borne in your mind. But see, whenever we are deriving a clock frequency by some circuits, okay, by say astable circuit or whatever, it goes without saying that definitely the design of the clock generator will be such that you will get periodic signal, right? So it is not necessary that the input clock waveform should be periodic in nature. Even though it is non-periodic, we just require a 0 to 1 transition and a 1 to 0 transition. So 0 to 1 and 1 to 0, this forms a toggle. Okay, both should be there, right? So if you can guarantee that, then only it will work. And also it did not be periodic. Yeah. But in practice, whatever we get, in general, what you get in a laboratory, the clock frequencies are normally periodic in nature. Okay, now let me discuss about the means by which you can increase the frequency. As you have seen, asynchronous counter is easiest to design, ripple counter, easiest. If the modulus or the base of the counter happens to be a power of 2. What will happen if the power is not a power of 2? We shall see that also. Before that, let me quickly discuss about the methods to improve the counter speed. That means we need to have counter of higher speed. So instead of asynchronous counter, let me take up synchronous counter. That means all the flip-flops are driven by the same clock signal. So this is a system generated clock. It is applied in parallel to the clock inputs of all the flip-flops. Now, if any transition will take place here, okay, so suppose any particular active edge of the clock here, also we assume that they are negative edge triggered flip-flop. So if at all the situation is ripe, that means assume that at any point of time all the JK pairs are at logic 1. Then when the clock is applied and a 1 to 0 transition is occurring, at the same point of time Q0, Q1, Q2, Q3 will change. That is guaranteed because this is synchronous counter and it has got the maximum, the clock that you can apply to the synchronous counter can have the maximum or the highest frequency possible. But it will not be 0. Why? Because again there is some propagation delay will be, it will be not as bad as the previous case. In the previous case, if you remember, it is a sum total of the number of propagation delays through individual flip-flops. In this case, it will not be so, but still there will be some maximum frequency. We cannot go beyond that. Let me find out. First of all, several things. The name of the counter is given serial carry synchronous counter. Why is it so? Okay, we'll answer this also. And see that FF1 will respond if Q0 equal to 1. The way it is connected is Q0 connected via this AND gate to the inputs of FF1. And then also by another AND gate to FF2 JK. And so that means via a series of AND gates. From here to here, from FF0 to FF3, if you come, you see that I am encountering 3 AND gates. In general, n minus 1 AND gates. So if you have got a modulo 2 to the power n counter and that too connected in this fashion, so modulo 2 to the power n means that you will have n number of flip-flops, and then starting from the leftmost n, before you encounter the rightmost flip-flop, one has to go through no less than n minus 1 number of AND gates. Now, you can question why I'm putting this and connecting logic 1. It is meaningless, you can say. You can directly connect Q0 to G1, Q1. Why? The reason is that, again, we have to revert to the modular style of VLSI DL. Okay, what is that? Suppose I build up a module consisting of these 4 flip-flops and 4 AND gates, put it in a black box and freeze the design. Now, instead of a 4-bit counter, let us say I require 8-bit counter, 12-bit counter, 16-bit counter. What I see to the design house, I say that if you verify my design, you have designed something, you designed it, implemented it, tested it thoroughly, and you have validated the design. That means you have certified the design to be okay. So it can be repeated without much change. Then, if this can be taken as a repetitive, as a simple repeating unit in the industry, in your factory, then similar circuits will result. So then this A4 will be connected instead of logic 1. Okay, so A4 will be connected to the leftmost flip-flop of the next module down the line, not logic 1. So that's why for the leftmost system you can connect logic 1. After that, this will drive the leftmost flip-flop of the next module. Okay, that's why this AND gate will also be required there. I believe it's clear now, is it not? Okay. So FF1 here you see, that means this flip-flop responds to clock. Whenever it will undergo a change in the state only when Q0 equal to 1. Unless Q0 equal to 1, this AND gate will not be. So when Q0 attains the logic 1 state, then it is J and K are 1, and if to the clock, if you get a 1 to 0 transition, it will change state. If it was earlier 0, now it will become 1. If it was earlier 1, now it will become 0. Okay. Similarly, FF2 will change state if both Q1 and Q0 are 1, because you see the feedback, see the effect. Okay, the cascade effect or serial effect. Q0 should be 1, also Q1 should be 1. And FF3 will respond if all the 3 flip-flops are in set state. That means Q0, 1, then this is 1. Q1, this is 1. If Q1, this is 1. Okay. Oh, this is I'm sorry, a wrong connection I'm giving. This A3, this connection should be J2, K3. Please correct this, okay. So A3, that means the output of this third AND gate should be connected to J3 and K3. Sorry for that. I believe all of you have got the mistake, no? That J3, K3 should be connected to the output of this, okay. And this point should be connected as well. That is clear. But this connection I have missed, right? All of you. So J3, K3 remains unconnected. It will not work, okay. It is floating. So it should be connected to A3. Please make that correction. So one can verify that the same sequence of states will be produced as in the ripple counter. Okay. The reason, as you can see, if you have noticed here, that FF1 will change state only when FF0 is 1. At all points of time, whenever you have got a change in Q1, prior to that Q0 equal to 1, prior to that Q0 equal to 1. Similarly, Q2 will change state only when prior to that Q1, Q0 both are 1. Here also. And Q3 will, the FF3 will change it whenever all the 3 preceding flip-flops are at logic 1. Then only it can change it. Okay. So same thing will repeat here also. That means the state sequence that will be produced by this counter, although it is synchronous counter, it will be same as the previous case. Okay. Thus one can verify that same sequence of states will be produced as in the modulo 16 ripple counter or the asynchronous counter. Clear? Now, it is called serial carry synchronous counter because information concerning the state of the preceding flip-flop is carried over to the succeeding flip-flops through a series of AND gates. Serial carry. So the state of this flip-flop is carried over to this state of the flip-flop as well as state is carried over to this FF2. So, and that is taking place serially because through this AND gate first, then through AND gate. So if you have to find the delay, how long it will take place to so that the state can be carried over to J3 K3, it will be through 3 number of AND gates. Okay, first it will pass through, that means once Q0 becomes 1, now it will pass to A1, then to A2, then to A3. Okay, so and I'm sorry, this should fall to J3 K3 from A3. Okay, so speed limitation of the synchronous serial counter you can also find out. What is that? Consider that the counter is in the state of 0. So as we have said, you should consider that particular transition when all the flip-flops in the circuit are supposed to change it. That will give me the acid test. That will give me the worst case propagation delay. Remember that. Okay, so if you just go from all 0 to 001, it will not matter. I mean, only one flip-flop needs to change it. But if you need to go from say 001, 0111 from 7 to 8 decimal, then also all the flip-flops need to change it. Here also, if you have to go from all 1 to all 0, it is mandatory that all the flip-flops should change it. So that situation will give me an occasion for finding out the maximum frequency or the minimum time period required of the clock. Okay, so I have explained it here. If you try to find what is the speed limit of the synchronous serial counter, what do you mean by that? Is that what is the maximum frequency of the clock which can drive this modulo 4 synchronous counter? So not modulo 4, modulo 16 or 4-bit synchronous counter. Consider that the counter is in the state Q3, Q2, Q1 at this point. I have written it. Now, when this active clock age comes, this is actually the clock signal. The waveform that I am showing refers to the clock signal. So, when if you read the state to be 1110, that only the leftmost flip-flop is in clear state, whereas all the right flip-flops are set state. Then when this active edge comes 120, what happens? FF0 changes state. Okay, only FF0 changes state. That means this 2 at this point all 1, and after that when all ones are passing, now we can calculate. See, after this 1 to 0 transition in the flip-flop occurs, what are the events should take place before the next 1 to 0 transition in the clock can come? The events are in this fashion. Events, what are the events? First, FF0 should change, have a transition. After that, this AND gate, this AND gate, and this AND gate. So you see, what are the events that should take place before this 1 to 0 transition and this 1 to 0 transition? First is that the propagation delay of this leftmost flip-flop and the propagation delay through this AND gate, and this AND gate. So essentially n-1 AND gate. If you just expand this system, if you extend the design for say n bit counter, here n equal to 4, for n equal to 16, if you just repeat this design, then for that it will be, the system would be such that going from what is the maximum frequency, it will depend on the propagation delay of the leftmost flip-flop, and then n-1, or for 16-bit counter it will be 15 number of AND gates. Okay, if you just blindly repeat this design. So that's what, after the, I have written for your benefit also. So at the next act 1 to 0 transition of the clock, this state will become all 1. Only FF0 respond, mind you. After the propagation delay of AND gate A1, okay, then what will happen? That because earlier when Q0 was 1, so all the JK inputs were in reset state. Sorry, or were having 0 value, only for the leftmost flip-flop. Clear? And after Q0 becomes 1, then first J1 K1 will become 1. Then after the propagation delay of A2, this J2 A2 K2 will become 1. After the propagation delay of A3, J3 K3 will become 1. So it will take n-1 propagation delay of the AND gate before all the JK of this system will become logic 1. And after that, when the clock has a transition of 1 to 0, immediately all the flip-flops will revert to all 0. Clear? That's what. So at the next active 1 to 0 transition of the clock, state Q3, Q2, Q1 will be reached as only the leftmost flip-flop response. After the propagation delay of A1 means this AND gate, Okay, G1, K1 will become 1. After the proportion delay A2, J2, K2 will become 1. After the proportion of A3, J3, K3 will become 1. So that's what I have written. So effect of change ripples to the AND gates. This fact allows us to estimate the minimum time period of the clock and maximum frequency. So this is the minimum time period and this translates to the maximum frequency. Is it clear? So
Sir,
there is a
why don't we consider that delay of the JK flip-flops 1, 2, 3?
okay. Why you have to consider the flip-flop propagation delay, no, JK flip-flop? Yeah, it's because of this. That means the worst case, the when we are trying to estimate the minimum time period or correspondingly the maximum clock frequency, we need to take that situation into account when it is required that all the flip-flops changed, right? And when it can happen, say from going from all 1 to all 0, that you can blindly take for any n-bit counter design. So that will give you a scope to estimate the frequency in the proper manner, clock frequency with a synchronous system. Even for asynchronous system also we have seen that the clock frequency gets decided by the flip-flop propagation delay. So here, if we consider that at any point of time, all the queues are in logic 1 state, but for the leftmost flip-flop. That means 1, 1, 1, 0. Okay. So when the now and this assume that this is 1. So then when the first 1 to 0 transition in the clock happens, first FF0 will change, only FF0. That means it will go from clear state to reset state. Q0 will go from 0 to 1. After that, what happens? See, once the clock has come to, it has come to all the 4 flip-flops, but only this will be able to respond. Why? Because here the situation is right that it is in toggle mode. Both of the J and K are 1. But not for these, not for this, not for this. So only this flip-flop will be able to respond, right? Because for the other J flip-flops, J and K will be in 0. Clear? Because Q0 earlier was 0, and its Q0's effect is rippled to all the flip-flop excitation input. That's why as Q0 was 0, the JK inputs of all the other flip-flops was at 0. So when a 1 to 0 transition will come, only this fellow will change from 0 to 1. But none of the other flip-flops. For that, you have to wait for the next triggering edge, clock. Okay, and prior to that, it will require that this 0 to 1, this logic 1 is going to this, then serially to this, then serially to this, until it reaches the J, K inputs of the rightmost flip-flop. So it will have to go through no less than 3 number of AND gates or n minus 1 AND gate in general. So that's why while and after that if the 1 to 0 transition comes in the clock, then all the 4 flip-flops will be simultaneously responding. Okay, that you should keep in mind, right? So the moment this clock edge comes, then simultaneously all the 4 flip-flops come. But what is the minimum time difference between this point and this point? That will be depending on the flip-flop propagation delay and the propagation delay of these AND gates, 3 AND gates. Is it clear now? Right? 3 AND gates and the propagation delay of this leftmost flip. That accounts for this expression of the minimum time period. Okay, and that will be translated to the maximum frequency. Is it clear? Okay. Further increase of the clock frequency, you see. So I believe it is clear now. That means serial carry means so many AND gate delay will be called for. Here a further increase of the clock frequency when we are bringing in synchronous parallel counter. Earlier it was synchronous serial counter. So here you see that the effect of Q0 was rippled from flip-flop to flip-flop. Q0 is not, although Q0's influence is there on FF2, also on FF3, but it is just connected to FF1 only. But here what we'll do to speed up the system further, Q0 is directly brought to here, here, here. So Q0 goes to via one AND gate, via AND gates to directly FF3, directly FF2, directly FF1, so on. So instead of rippling the logic levels through AND gates, each logic level required at an AND gate is brought directly to that gate. Okay, But what is the disadvantage is that here you require a 2 input AND gate, here you require a 3 input AND gate, 4 input AND gate, 5 input and so on as you increase the value of n. So each succeeding AND gate will require one more input. Also, the fan out of this Q0 will increase because Q0 needs to be fed to this AND gate, this AND gate, this AND gate, this AND gate. So the capacitive delay at the output of this will increase, and the delay of FF0 will increase also. Okay. So second point, you note each additional gate increases by 1 the fan out requirement of each flip flop. That means Q0 must be able to drive this AND gate, this AND gate, this also 4 AND gates. Okay. Must have the highest fan out, followed by Q1, followed by Q2. So the delay of the leftmost flip flop will be maximum because it should have the highest fan out. And speed of the flip flop will go down and its load will increase. So FF0 will have the maximum fan out and longest propagation delay of all the 4 flip flops. Suppose PDF denote propagation delay as a function of fan out. Okay, so maximum clock frequency in this case will be straightforwardly obtained as 1 by UC. This is TPD F means the propagation delay of the flip flop as a function of fan out, that this capital F, and the propagation delay of only AND gate, not multiple AND gate. And that too you see which AND gate will take into account that which is applicable at the rightmost flip flop. So here, for example, the 3 input AND gate. Okay, so in the above circuit, fan out of the leftmost flip flop, namely FF0 is required to be the largest of all 4. So the capacitive load is the largest at the output of FF0, and its propagation delay will also be the largest of all the 4 flip flops. So thereby we get the maximum frequency to be this. So note the difference between this and the previous serial carry counter. There, one flip flop delay was there, but instead of a single AND gate delay, there was number of AND gate delays n-1. Here only you have to consider one AND gate delay, but this AND gate you should consider to be the AND gate with the highest fan in, namely here 3. Okay. So far, I think it's clear. Any doubt you can ask me a question. I think, yeah. So any doubt in the discussion so far for the asynchronous triple counter and the synchronous counter? Hello, are you there?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. If any doubt, please feel free to ask. Aman Raj, are you there? Yeah.
Sir, in the last case, but if the fan-in of the AND gate at the last flip-flop is very high, then the propagation delay for that AND gate would be different than the first AND gate used, right?
Definitely, yes.
So because we have used a common TPD AND gate value over here for Fmax calculation.
Oh, yes, right. That is actually, although we have written blindly only TPD AND, this should refer to the AND gate which is having the maximum fan-in. For example, here for this particular circuit, it will require actually, here actually one further mistake is that you see this AND gate should have a fan-in of 2, this should be 3, because although I'm writing it 1, this is the say leftmost system. If this system is blindly repeated, then this actually should not be 1, this should be fed to the next stage. Okay, so there also this one should be connected, so the fan-in should be 3, 4. So here, for example, if you just terminate at a 4-bit counter, then the maximum fan-in called for is 4. Okay, so that means this TPD AND which you are writing will refer to the propagation delay of the AND gate having a fan-in of 4. You see, fan-in also increases the propagation delay. That means you are asked to operate with a multiple emitter transistor BJT at the input end. So having a fan-in of 2 means 2 emitters. Having a fan-in of 4 means 4 emitters. Okay, so that will increase the what you call the capacitance, total capacitance of the input capacitance of the AND gate. Okay, and thereby raises the propagation delay, but not actually in a what you call that means if you say the fan-in a propagation delay of a fan-in propagation delay of a AND gate with fan-in 2, suppose it is 5 nanosecond, it will not be that propagation delay of a fan-in with of a AND gate with fan-in equal to 4 is just double of that. No, it will not be 5 to 10. Okay, it will depend. It will be what do you call? It will depend on the input capacities, and that depends on the actually base emitter. Base emitter, that PN junction capacities. Okay, that is somewhat increased. Okay, but not linearly. That means if you increase the fan in from 2 to 6, it does not mean that the propagation delay increases by 3 times. Not like that. It may increase from say 5 nanosecond to 6 nanosecond or 6.5, something like that, but not from 5 to 10. That's why this in the expression we have written TPDF and TPDN. These are actually, this TPDF refers to the propagation delay of the leftmost flip-flop, because you see that its fan-out requirement will be highest considering the all four. This has to be fed to this AND gate, this AND gate, this AND gate, whereas this has to be fed to only one AND gate less. It has to be fed only to one gate and AND gate less, and something like that. So the leftmost flip-flop will definitely have the highest possible propagation delay. Also, the rightmost AND gate will have the highest possible propagation delay. So here, as you have to consider for estimating the maximum frequency and minimum time period, we have to consider the maximum delay uh, occurring in this particular instance. So this TPDF means this propagation delay, that means that of the leftmost flip-flop, and this AND gate delay means that of the rightmost AND gate. Okay, is it clear?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If any more question, you can ask me.
So why is TPDF of the leftmost flip-flop?
Okay, why it is leftmost flip-flop? Is it because of the fact that you see why it is synchronous parallel counter? Because you see Q0 affects the time by which all JK flip-flops of all the right neighbors of this FF0 will undergo a change from 0 to 1. So it needs to be fed to all of them. Earlier, we are feeding them in serial fashion. We are keeping only 2 input AND gates throughout, but it is going serially from these to these, then these to these. So in order that Q0's effect should be felt at the rightmost flip-flop, it has to pass through n-1 AND gate. Here we are not waiting for that. The serial delay we are actually circumventing, overcoming. How? By feeding in Q0 directly to this AND gate, directly to this AND gate, directly to this AND gate. Okay, so that means Q0 is simultaneously fed to this point, this point, this point. So imagine the totem pole output. Okay, the output point is driven to this AND gate, this AND gate, this AND gate, and so on. Right? So that means the fan out requirement on the leftmost flip-flop is the maximum, whereas the fan out requirement of this immediate right neighbor is 1 less. That of the FF2 will be 1 less. Okay, if this is 4, then the fan out requirement will be 3. This will be 2. Okay, and so on. So as the fan out requirement of the flip-flop happens to be the maximum, so it has to provide current, the maximum amount of current it has to provide to its load. So load on Q0 will increase, and if the load increases, the requirement of current increases. So the capacitive load at the output of FF0 will increase. Okay, and plain and simple, if you take the RC propagation delay, as the capacitance delay at the output of FF0 happens to be the largest of all the flip-flops, so its delay will be also the largest amongst the delay of all the flip-flops. Is it clear? I hope it is clear,
Yes.
no?
Yes.
Okay. Because the fan-out requirement of FF0 will be the maximum. And in decreasing manner, the fan-out requirement will be next large will be FF1, next FF2, next FF3, and so on. And similarly, the AND gate propagation delay will mean that we have to take into account the rightmost AND gate, because that has got the maximum fan-in, okay, and that will account for the highest propagation delay amongst all the other AND gates. But still, it will not be the propagation of this is not say 4 times this or 2 times, 3 times this, not like that. It will be somewhat larger than this. So if the propagation delay of this AND gate happens to be say 10 nanosecond, it will not be 20 in this case. It will be say depending on the process variation, depending on the what you call the input base emitter junction capacitance, PN junction capacitance, it can be say from 10 to 12. If this suffers a delay of 10, this can suffer a delay of 12, but not 20. Okay, that's why don't multiply. Earlier it was what? N minus 1 times TFT. So it will not be from 10 to 30, n equal to 4. Not maximum say 10 to 12 or 13, 14 maybe. Okay, right? So that's why still it gives you of all the see, we have studied so far only 3 varieties. One is the asynchronous ripple counter, second one is serial carry synchronous counter, this is synchronous parallel counter. So of all the 3 varieties I have studied, synchronous parallel counter has got the highest possible frequency that it can work with, and asynchronous ripple counter, the frequency, the clock frequency should be least of all the 3 cases. Okay, so this affords to work with a clock having the highest frequency of all the 3 cases. Clear so far? I think you have to go to another class now. No, it is 9:15. So thank you very much, dear friends. If you have got any doubt, you can send me mails also. Otherwise, we have to we have to break now. Okay. So thank you and have a good day. So let me tell you goodbye. So all of you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir.
Thank you very much. So please attend Saturday's tutorial meeting. Okay.